Hello, and welcome to She Leads Biotech, the podcast that celebrates women leaders in the bioscience space. I'm your host, Sharron Cox, CEO and Managing Director of CNA International, based right here in New York. And each week I'll be talking to women leaders about their work, their triumphs and challenges, providing invaluable insight into how women can unlock their superpowers and succeed on their own terms. So whether you're navigating your own career path in bioscience or you're passionate about science and innovation, I hope you're empowered and inspired by each episode. Today's guest's initial career as a New York fashion model ended when a serious epilepsy seizure had her hospitalized for many months. During that time, she devoured her neurologist's medical textbooks and went on to obtain a PhD in neuroscience. Following a stint as an investor, she became employee number one at a laboratory incubator startup. To tell us more about her fascinating journey, please welcome Executive Director of LifeSKY, Christin Godale. Hey there, Christin.
Hey, Sharron. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm very well. How are you?
Doing well.
Excellent. And where are you speaking to me from? I believe you're in the great state of Kentucky. Is that right?
We are. We're in northern Kentucky, right across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. And have you always been a Kentuckian? Is that the right word?
You know, I like to say I'm an honorary Kentuckian. I'm originally from northeastern Ohio, near Lake Erie, the Great Lake part of America.
I've never been to Kentucky. It's a place I've always wanted to go because I'm a big racing fan. So it's on my bucket list of things to do to visit Kentucky for the Kentucky Derby.
Yes, we got to get you here for the Derby to enjoy some bourbon, And I know typically, we're talking about science today and life sciences and whatever's emerging here in Kentucky. So typically we're not known for that, but we are known for our bourbon, horses, and really our community here. A lot of welcoming people, and it's really a pleasure to do business in this state.
So maybe by the time we finished this interview, then we'll be able to add on life sciences as reasons to visit the state of Kentucky.
You know what, Sharron? Bourbon is science.
I won't disagree with that. Okay, so what do I know about you? I know that you've got a bachelor's in neuroscience and biology, and you went on to do a PhD in neuroscience?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So why neuroscience? Why did you pick that, or did it pick you? How did it come about?
Sure. I'm very outspoken, and I have epilepsy. So, I wasn't always really vocal about having epilepsy. Growing up with it, you always want to hide these types of things because you either are embarrassed you're having seizures, you're afraid someone's going to judge you, or people just won't understand you, since in the movies, it's depicted as this very scary thing, especially in the horror movies. People don't want to deal with these folks having the seizures and such. But I grew up with epilepsy. I've had it since I was a young child, and I've lived with it my entire life. So it's always been a difficult journey through academia to even get to where I am now. So I'm always really thankful to actually be a professional, be an executive now, and impact folks and be, an example of what you can do having epilepsy.
Okay. So talk me through how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. Well, I got into neuroscience because I had a short stint in New York City as a fashion model. I was signed to a top 10 agency. I did editorial work, and I really loved it. I credit that experience a lot to who I am now, being able to talk to anyone, everyone, and just, putting yourself out there. I had all these agents teach me when I was 16 how to present myself to folks in New York City. So it changes you. Now, towards the end of my modeling career, I had a bad seizure on set of a photo shoot. And that is what caused me to go back to northeastern Ohio, I was hospitalized for several months, just trying to recover from this very, very bad seizure episode. While I was in the hospital, there's not much to do there. And my doctors, my incredible neurologists, they were sharing their medical school textbooks with me. So I was learning about the brain and understanding, this is what I have. So of course that inspired me to go into neuroscience. I wanted to really understand what was going on with me, because I think that was just an important part of my life journey. I had to understand why this incident impacted my career and changed what I was doing in life.
And what are the treatments for epilepsy now? Is it something that is curable? Is it managed? Is it treated? What is the prognosis for it?
It's all managed. There's different types of epilepsies. I have focal epilepsy. I've also had complex epilepsies, and I've had very physical ones. And all of that is just treated with anti-epilepsy drugs.
Okay.
So you control what's going on in your brain, and it kind of levels you out for a while. So I've been on several medications my entire life, and that's just kind of how you roll when you have this type of disorder. There are also more advanced treatments available now, which is great, such as surgeries and other implantable devices that can kind of level out where you are with your seizures.
Okay.
But again, it's not a curable disease right now, unfortunately. Right. You kind of have to live with it. And I think the hardest part about having epilepsy is it's just very unpredictable. You never know when you're going to have a seizure, and you will never know. So that's I think the burden all of us with epilepsy share. And that's what makes it so hard to talk about, because you don't want anyone to know that at any time, you could possibly have a seizure.
Wow. Okay. So that must take a lot of prepping from your perspective as to ensure the situations and things that you're in.
Yeah.
So what was then your career journey? Once you'd done your PhD in neuroscience, where did you go from there?
Yeah, so I completed my PhD at the University of Cincinnati. I did my dissertation work at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, which is currently ranked the #1 pediatric hospital in America right now. So we're very proud of that, to have that in the region. But after I completed my PhD, I transitioned into venture capital at a small firm called Cincy Tech in Southern Ohio. And that was a really great experience, because when you're in academia, you're just taught from a discovery perspective about your science or project. I need to discover this protein and what it does, and that's it. Or I need to discover this mechanism and how it affects this disease state. Fine. But when you're transitioning into the business world, into the venture world, you're thinking about science in a completely different way. Not only about what the science does, but how it's perceived to all of these external folks that want to make money on it. And that's just the name of the game. So where does your science fall in a competitive landscape? If you're looking down line with all the pharma companies or potential acquirers of your science that may be a company, what do they want right now? And if you think about what they want, what are they going to want in the future? So it was, I like to say, an evolution of my scientific brain into a business brain, with how to assess companies, and also thinking about what are high growth opportunities, or what are opportunities that are still needed, even if they're not high growth.
And what's the word I'm looking for? Your success rate, with women investors. That's the point I want to get to, is obviously it's always in the news that women receive way, way less in terms of investment. What was your experience with that, the company investing in women businesses?
I think venture in general, nationwide and also globally, we tend to gloss over founders that are women for some reason. I don't know why. Same with looking at other people, in the space, finding those women that are in high positions, like partner level at venture firms. You don't see a lot of them. Most of us are principal, analyst, associate, and same going back to academia. Same thing, you get your postdoc, You go to a faculty level, you're most likely an assistant or associate professor. And I don't know why, women don't move up, but it's a real problem across different types of industries and something that we have to fix, but I don't know how to fix that. I think it's really us collectively making the decision to say, no, it's not going to be like this anymore. And we're here and we're ready to change things.
And maybe even if we get more women investors, so more women are investing, and then they choose to invest in women and women's businesses. Because at the moment, it seems that even the women that are in charge of investing are still choosing male-focused leadership businesses to invest in. So they're not making that decision. So that maybe that's somewhere we need to start.
I think so. And there's tons of groups. I know you had another woman on here that was leading the Biotech Sisterhood that just was launched. And I think groups like that really help change the industry because, again, you're collectively coming together. The deals are getting seen. The deals are actually seriously be considered in the pipeline and not just stuck at an analyst level and being just thrown away because it's just, how it works sometimes. But Biotech Sisterhood, there's another group called Breaking 7 or B7 that connects all the business development and venture women in the region and nation and globally together so that we all can support each other.
So there are things moving forward. That's encouraging. Excellent. Yes. So what was the next step of your journey then, once you'd been in investment?
Yes. So I made the decision to actually hop out of my cozy venture job last year and pursue this new project in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I had my eye on it for a while. The Commonwealth of Kentucky, they invested in this lab incubator in 2022. And it was very interesting because we had the General Assembly in Kentucky led by Senator Chris McDaniel, advocate for science and pushing it up to Northern Kentucky to funnel that money there. We also had Governor Andy Beshear's administration slap some support on there too. And again, I love that this was a bipartisan effort to support science in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So we got $15 million funneled up to Northern Kentucky to build this lab incubator facility. Last year, earlier in the year, we got an additional $2.5 million in appropriations, again, supported together to continue to support the development of this incubator. I thought that was very interesting because, again, we were talking about bourbon and horses earlier in the conversation. So Kentucky isn't typically at a global level, national level known for this industry. So I thought that was super cool. And I saw an opportunity to really develop this company. And it was formerly known as Covington Life Sciences Partners. It's been around for a while, but last year, when I got on, we did a lot of market research. We talked to incubators at a national level to assess what goes right, what goes wrong. We talked to scientific entrepreneurs. We did the whole shebang. And what came out of that was now LifeSciKY. LifeSciKY is now a brand for not just a lab incubator located in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, but really at a state level. What we're doing now is advocating for life sciences. We're making it easier to come into Kentucky for life sciences. Before, there was no convener really in the lab incubator space, and that's us now. And it's just a really exciting time.
One of the things that I love about doing this show is being schooled in areas, because obviously my real job is that of a recruiter. I'm not a scientist, but I love working in this sector, and it's always great for me to learn new things. Now, I do not know what a incubator is. What exactly is it, and how does it benefit going forward in scientific discoveries?
Yeah. So scientific incubators or lab incubators, basically what this thing is you have a space You have lab benches in there. You have private labs in there with a lot of different amenities like tissue culture room, equipment zones with ducted hoods, cold storage like -E's, -G's, +4s, and then all this shared equipment that you can use as a lab resident in the incubator, depending on your model.
Okay.
So an entrepreneur or an early stage scientist, whether they're spinning out a company from an academic center, or I like to call them street entrepreneurs with an idea on a sheet of paper and finding someone to actually do the science and come into the incubator. Those are the folks we're looking for. And regionally, we haven't had one of these in a very long time. And I think that really limits the ability for an ecosystem to grow, because even if you're investing in these companies, if there's nowhere to do the science, then they're going to leave.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs always find a way. I'm aware of that, but it's an essential tool to have an incubator in your ecosystem.
Right.
And you see that with Lab Central, Biolabs, Portal Innovations, and several other giants in the industry that are doing these things and supporting the ecosystems where they are. So again, without stuff like this, without spaces, you don't get these little companies coming in and trying new things and eventually maybe growing and becoming a unicorn or even having a substantial exit.
So what's your involvement in the company? Because I know you're the executive director, right? So what falls under your remit?
Yes. So as executive director, it's a little unique because, I came into this company when it was still growing. So I know I'm executive director, but I also like to think of myself as a founder or, employee number one. And that's a really exciting time because coming from the venture world, this is a little controversial, but I'm just going to say it. Sometimes folks go into venture and they don't have that startup experience, and you could be a really good investor, fine. But I feel like having this founder experience, if I were to go back into investing, I would assess companies totally differently because there are things when you're building you don't even know. You can't relate to them unless you've done it. That includes I've had to build out a budget. I'd have to define the mission and strategy, the story, do all the market research, launch the company. I mean, it's quite a take on. In addition to all that, we have to set up the lab. I've had to direct folks to the facility. We had to do a lab redesign. I've had to work with plumbing, HVAC, electricians. It's been a great experience. And I've learned that I actually love construction. And I think it's a science in itself with all the challenges that emerge when you're putting something together. But I know that when we bring on our lab services manager later this year, it's going to make my job a whole lot easier because I'll have some support with the lab. And I think the lab is so important because that's the product you're selling and you want folks to enjoy being in there, down to what kind of chairs do you have in there? What kind of workbenches? What are the sizes of them? What's the quality of your equipment? Is it just a hand-me-down, or are you bringing in a new high-quality piece of equipment where you can generate data fast so that the workflow in the incubator, if you have multiple people there, is it being held up because people are taking 60 minutes to use a piece of equipment and then can't move on? I mean, it's down to these little details that you have to think about when you're thinking of the workflow for your potential clients and resident companies to give them a great experience.
Right. And let's just say somebody's listening to this podcast and thinks, wow, that, Kentucky, I could take the startup there. What is the housing ecosystem and that kind of facilities that would be available for people who would choose to go to Kentucky to set up?
Are you talking about residential homes?
Yeah.
So we're building a lot right now. We've invested over, I believe it's $120 million into our riverfront since last year, and we're still building. Again, it's for Covington, Kentucky, where our headquarters is located, and several other folks are continuing to join the city. It's a real, I'd say, revival of the ecosystem. The city itself has been on a journey for the past 4 decades, and we're finally to a point where now we're seriously being considered as a great place to live, from apartments, condos, single family homes. There's really options for people my age, and then, others to consider as well. I know living here is a big thing. Housing is really hard to come by right now nationally because it's just too expensive. I live in a suburb right now, 1 county over, and I'm loving it. I'm 20 minutes away from the lab, but again, there's just so many options in northern Kentucky.
Okay, so back to your role in the lab. You started as employee number 1, effectively. How many employees do you have now?
So we're planning to bring on another full-time employee later this year. A lot of the operations have actually been supplemented by all these volunteer scientists from the companies on my board of directors. And it I love to say that because it shows the type of community we have here in northern Kentucky and greater Cincinnati. People like to chip in, and these folks just voluntarily help me all the time, even down to data, using resources that we don't have. They just offer these things anytime I need them. And that's what I love about our community here. But we plan to have another full-time employee later this year.
Okay.
We also plan to have these, I'm calling them innovation fellows, which are PhD level or master's students level folks coming on and really either helping me out or a lab manager out, which provides really valuable, I'd say, industry experience that you need to eventually transition out of academia if you choose to do so. When I was in graduate school, I did a lot of that. Had a short opportunity on the University of Cincinnati Board of Trustees that changed me. I was a technical writer for a nonprofit called Cure Epilepsy. And then I was able to do this policy opportunity with Society for Neuroscience, which I'm still involved with them today. But those little opportunities give you these skill sets that you don't get, in the lab. So if we can help transition some of these folks out of academia or give them a little opportunity to figure out, is business what I want to do? Is industry lab work, is that what I want to do? That's what you have to give back to the next generation of scientists.
It was interesting. I think 2 episodes ago, one of my guests was talking about, she was at a bench within a university and doing her AAV genetic work in the university lab, and COVID hit, and obviously nobody was allowed to go in the into the university, and she was saying how that was a real pivotal time for her research, because there was a facility like what you're describing where she was able to go and use the facilities and able to get her gene therapy asset to the next level. So she kind of thanks COVID for giving her that, because it spun her into a whole new area.
Yeah.
That she was able to explore. So those people who are really looking to get something started, opportunities like yours are amazing, right?
Yeah, and they're, with where we are in America, they're hard to come by. And that's what we want to change here as well. Like if you're a PhD student and you're going to graduate and you're in Cincinnati or northern Kentucky, employment options for you are typically at the academic institutions like University of Cincinnati, Cincinnati Children's, and then we have a lot of industry-related operations here like P&G, and then Resilience is here now, and then a couple others. But if you want to go into biotech or startup land, you really have to start your own company. And again, before LifeSciKY, before incubator existed, that hasn't been around for a long time. So you have to move away.
And will LifeSKY get involved in the investment side? Will part of the service be talking to those scientists who are looking for advice on seed funding and things like that? Is that part of the service that would be included, or is that not a viable option?
So right now, we work with the Commonwealth of Kentucky very closely to find funding opportunities for folks coming into the state.
Okay.
I would like to explore that eventually and probably start with non-dilutive funding and grant mechanisms. Because I remember, giving up 1% of equity, it's a nightmare. And we don't want to make folks, we don't want to make it difficult, or even putting in a success fee in the license agreement. We don't want to make it hard for them.
Right.
It's already hard enough.
Okay.
But investment for the future, we've considered it, and I think we have to build a foundation first. And that includes getting folks in the lab, building our partnership model out, and creating that foundation to create the value proposition with why we would need to raise money. As an emerging manager, it's hard enough to raise money, even with the big guys out there. Hard to raise money. So you really have to have a compelling case before you even go out to those high net worths, family offices, corporate VCs to build your case.
Right. Okay. But it's possibly something in the future. Never say never.
Never say never.
What can you see? What are you looking for the future of LifeSKY? I mean, I know it is early anyway, so you're still at very early stage of building that out. Are you able to kind of visualize 5 years' time, or what you expect it to be?
Yeah. So companies that we can accommodate in the facility are really druggy based or therapeutic based, and then also diagnostics.
Right.
We made the strategic decision not to pursue medtech because across the river, with Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky, it's right next to each other. We're a region. There's this great facility called 1819 Innovation Hub associated with University of Cincinnati, and they have over $1.2 million of prototyping equipment right there for the public to access. So we're covering a membership per company. If you want to go over there, make a prototype, and then bring it back over here and use the prototype, fine. We really want to complement the region. But for the future, though, we really want to nab these companies and continue to figure out what's going in here. Okay, you're in here. Why are you here? Okay, we know why you're here. What do you want to do next? And we made it life sciences really broad because I think there's still some work to define the industry out here. Is that materials sciences? Is that veterinary medicine? Is that biologics or small molecules? Gene therapy, whatever. And I didn't want to pigeonhole us into one specific thing because I've seen that done before. And it works at first, but long term, you have no ability to pivot if you need to. And as you know, based on market conditions, they always change. So you need to be able to move here and there anytime you need to. So I'm in that
very spot myself.
Yes.
The employment market and who's hiring and who isn't. And it's
Exactly.
Really kind of like, woo! It's times like that I'm grateful for my 45 years of experience.
Exactly.
Most times I kind of try not to mention that, but there are times like the market is right now where to be able to give hope to people that, what goes down does come back up again. And it's really just a matter of time, but being ready to pivot and adapt as the needs may be. The service is still very much the same, like yours, but you don't want to be, we only do this service for this particular asset or so. I totally get that.
Mm-hmm.
So what about your advice you've done amazing. I'm so excited to
killing me, Sharron.
Please, it's just like, I started as a catwalk model, and then I did this, and then I did that, and now I did neuroscience. For young women out there that maybe don't know what they want to pursue, and you want to get them in your lab space,
yes,
what advice would you give to those young women?
I think the biggest thing I've learned in my life so far has been you can't plan everything. And that's typically what's hammered into you when you're in academia. I get my bachelor's and then I do this co-op and then the co-op gets me into my PhD or master's. Then after that, I go into academia or whatever. And it's very linear. And what I had to learn, especially with where I'm at now, is you really never know where you're going to go. I did not expect to have this super cool job as executive director of this cool legacy project in Kentucky. I had no idea I was going to do this, but I am here now because I let it happen. I went with the flow and, that's what I'm doing now. Another thing that I've learned as well is you're never too young to do anything. In the Midwest, Mid-South, the attitude is typically pay your dues. You got to wait. You're not old enough. And that's something that I've had to wrestle with. Thankfully, I have a lot of supportive people around me that have told me, no, Christin, you could do it. You're qualified, that's fine. So think about when you're creating a startup or want to create a startup, you're never too young. What you need is a really great board of directors, board of advisors that have those skills that you don't have. So I have, a CEO of a major hospital. I have a CEO of a pharma company, CEO of a clinical trial research organization, and all these other amazing people that mentor me and give me the skills that I don't have yet. But just know you're never too young to create a company. You could do that at any time.
And maybe never too old either?
Never too old. Whatever.
Well, give some hope to people like me, Christin.
Yes,
come on.
That's right. Okay. You got me, Sharron.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I wish you every success. I don't know why I need to wish you every success because I just know it's going to be amazing. I look forward to following the journey and fully expect to see that incubator overflowing with talent in there to get the next cure out there that comes from that lab in Kentucky. So
thanks, Sharron.
Thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing your story. And good luck with the future.
Love it. Thanks, Sharron. We'll get you out here for the Derby eventually.
Oh, definitely. Yes. I'll let you know when I'm coming and you can recommend a good Airbnb for me.
Yes, will do.
Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. She Leads Biotech is brought to you by CNA International USA, a woman-owned boutique search firm based in New York. If you're looking to hire talent for your company or want support in achieving your career goals, please reach out to me at contact@cnaint.com. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And remember, the success of every woman should be an inspiration to another. So don't be afraid to share yours. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.